Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Welcome back once again to the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian. We do hope you're all good and well. From myself, Alan. Uh, Once again, we're back aboard on the roller coaster train called Heart of Midlothian Naze's Boat of Fucking Madness. Obviously, we're going to be just highlighting the details of the game from Motherwell just past there, where we came away with a 2-1 victory. Many things to celebrate about that one being Alan actually getting a score prediction correct. So well done on that, Alan. And it's going to be probably like a rather short one today, as obviously next week we are in international break. A wee news to highlight that, as I just saw today as well. Shay Adams has actually dropped out of the Scotland squad, which is now gotten Lawrence Shankland in to the squad. So hopefully he will not play at all. But all the very best to Shankland as well. And yeah, just a few we like sort of brief bit of news as well to share with you. And yeah, hopefully it'll be was it a nice wee short and sweet podcast for yourselves today. So as we said, we do hope you're all good and well. And as always, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast via the YouTube, please to the YouTube page, please think about subscribing. And also, if you want to get in contact with us via our socials as well, please feel free to do so. And we seem to actually do this every kind of 50 new subscribers, but from myself and Alan, we would like to thank everybody who has newly subscribed and all the original subscribers, as well as we hit our own personal milestone of 350 subscribers before Christmas. So we do thank you all very much. Obviously, we're fast approaching our 100th episode, where we plan to do something for you all. Once again, as we're always so organized, we have no idea what we're going to do for it yet, but we will do something for it. So if you just keep an eye out for that. But from myself and Alan, we do greatly appreciate you guys as well, and we're just watching and engaging the podcast, and just for us as well, for for just the two boys that produced something out of lockdown to get through the days, and now it's turned into almost 100 episodes. Honestly, we could not be more grateful. So I'm sure Alan, you'll thank the same as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said it a few times in recent weeks due to Hearts being absolutely dreadful that these have become some sort of a therapy session for me. And I'm sure there's plenty of other people out there that feel exactly the same way. So yeah, thank you to everybody. You're all absolutely amazing. And yeah, let's see what more we can do. But yeah, there will be something for episode 100. I have no idea what it's going to be, but we'll think of something. And Spotify might happen at some point, but I'm quite enjoying
A
the
way to
I'm
call
quite
me out.
enjoying
Thanks, man.
listen, I'm quite enjoying the running joke of, is it on Spotify yet? Are you on Spotify yet? I'm like, nah, we're not, mate. Nah, we're not. Nah, we'll
We're
get there, but we're
probably,
not there
yeah,
yet.
we're probably the only kind of podcast that doesn't actually do what it's meant to actually do. More than down so to myself as when it comes to technology between us, where we're one average kind of man in terms of knowledge how to do stuff like in between us, but we will get there at some point. I did say that we would do it before the end of this season, so we still got like a few months left, so bear with
As
us
I
on
say,
that.
I enjoy the interaction and the engagement of people constantly asking if we're on Spotify. So just keep commenting and asking us, are we on Spotify? Because drives up the engagement. I'm sounding like a
Absolutely.
proper like YouTube person. Like that's bizarre.
Oh,
Anyway,
you don't want to be that, man. You don't want to be that.
let's
But yeah,
let's get back to talking about football.
absolutely, absolutely. And this will be the best value as a therapy session, as it is absolutely free. So we do hope you all enjoy. And yeah, let's get cracked on into it, Alan. So obviously, as I said,
Hmm.
it was a 2-1 away win against Motherwell. Obviously, we'll go into the details as we go on, but thought overall, we were actually quite uh, decent. I thought for the majority of the actual game, uh, Motherwell didn't really have much threat there. I thought we were quite like sort of open with our play. I thought the majority of the chances that created came from us as well. Um, and to be honest, always there's that thing where have you actually played well or has the other team played shite? I don't think Motherwell were terrible, but at the same time, I don't think they were overly good. But I thought we took the chances well in terms of the actual goals. Obviously, like a few very controversial decisions as well, but we will talk about that as we go on. And but I think the best place to actually start, Alan, which again, whenever we discover these terrifying stats, like you just have to laugh, eh? So I believe this was just after the game when you messaged me. We have now beaten, I believe, if we're going to include all the competitions, we have beaten our away record from last year, which was a total of 3 away wins. I can't remember if that's just in the league or in all the competitions, but 3 away wins, and we've all in terms of the actual league itself in comparison, we have now won 3 away games, and we're only in November of the new season. So, how was that stat for you, Alan? When you found that out?
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it? Nazy in, and there's no problems at Hearts. Everything is wonderful, and yeah, our horrendous away form has been resolved. Naismith is a miracle worker, and I await the statue in the plaza. Um,
Absolutely.
Nah, but like seriousness, like I think we've matched it domestically. I think we
Right.
won 3 games in total last season, and I think in the league, obviously we've won 3 games already. We've got more away wins than home points at the moment, which is quite funny as well. But yeah, no, it's in all seriousness, it is quite good to be fair. Like I know I'm laughing and joking about Naismith, etc. But yeah, it's a good starting kind of point for Naismith to say, well, I said our away form needs to improve, and it has at the moment. Like you say, is there an element of we've not played brilliant teams or they've not been great when we've played them? Maybe, but it's that old cliche of you can only beat what's in front of you, and we've done it 3 times away from home. So very pleasing, as I say. I would recommend that the statue is made out of bronze. And yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely, Alan. Absolutely. Well, as we got the game underway, I only caught it once again, knowing where my luck is usual. I caught it literally on 29 minutes when we actually scored in 27 minutes, due to work reasons as usual. But the goal itself, Alan, and good to kind of mix that in with the starting lineup as well. There is a few players, well, sorry, one player in particular I want to talk about with you, but overall, in terms of the actual team and the fact we actually scored from a set piece. Once again, improvement, 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 nazy in. So, just
Yeah.
before we go through the actual team like itself, what did you think of the set piece goal, sir?
Yeah, I think it's clearly something that they'd worked on. It was some sort of routine because I think they've tried it a few times in the last few weeks and it's just never really come off. But we, the cross from Lowry was good. Frankie Kent just dominating in the air as Frankie Kent does. The finish from Shanklin was fantastic. I didn't actually
Mm,
realize at the time because I didn't watch it live because I was between night shifts at that point.
mm.
And feeling absolutely horrendous, which I'm sure you could probably still tell in my voice. I'm not 100% recovered as of yet. Um, So yeah, I watched it back in a match replay, and I didn't realize how good Shanklin's finish was. I just thought it kind of just went in off him. Like I didn't give him anywhere near enough credit. And then I watched it again, and I was like, it's actually a very, very
Yeah,
well taken little touch, and he knows exactly what he's doing, rather than what I thought initially, whereas the ball just kind of hit him and went in.
yeah. No, man, exactly. Because like when I first watched it back, I genuinely thought it was an error from the Motherwell defense because initially it was Frankie Kent, I believe, that headed it, and I thought it
Mm.
just kind of crept over everybody's feet and just missed everybody. But like when you see it back from like a different angle, like it was actually quite a decent and finished, quite controlled as well. So very well done to Lawrence Shankland as well. Obviously, with the second goal in the second half, that's now 10 goals. And we're only in November, so he's clearly found his goal scoring form, which we've been thirsty for the last few weeks. So, just to kind of go back, like because as I said, like for the team as well, it, it's an interesting one because obviously, like we agree on most things, I guess. Like once we like actually talk about it, like like
Yeah.
if there is some sort of disagreement, there is usually some sort of common ground. But I think it's it's a subject that's shared like with most Hearts fans. Like some people think he's actually decent. Some folk think he doesn't bring enough, or he doesn't like show enough when he's on the actual pitch and what he actually does in terms of like like of chances and his techniques for thing. Um, Talking about specifically Alex Lowry. So obviously he's on loan from the Rangers. I don't know what the ins and outs are, but like we've heard that there is a recall option in January if Rangers want to take him back. At at this moment in time, I think with the squad that Clermont has now, I'd like to think that he wouldn't to call him back, but like that's either near or there. But throughout the start of the season, you and me have, in particular, haven't really agreed in terms of what he can offer and what he can do on the actual pitch. Like so what I did want to like wholeheartedly ask you is because obviously like from your end you're not a massive fan, like you've not went to the point where he's absolutely shite and he doesn't offer anything,
Mm.
but is it fair
Mm.
to say that you're still not maybe fully convinced that he's maybe like let's just say for example that he's not a sure self sorry yeah a like a self-assured like sort of starting like sort of player for Nazy's team, or
It's it's a difficult one because I'm sure a good few weeks ago I called him empty jersey and said that he's about as pacey as an empty crisp packet blown in the wind, and like there's
quite harsh,
still
but okay.
yeah, a little bit harsh, and I'll admit it's a little bit harsh, but it was maybe reactionary after he had an absolute stinker of a performance or something, which tends to be the way. Um,
Yeah,
no, like I think there's. I'm not going to say there's a player there because I only reserve that for full time permanent Hearts
I
players.
think that's probably the first time you've ever said that, Alan.
It's one of those like when we signed him on loan, I was very much of the ilk of right. We've heard so much about our own young players. Why are we loaning somebody in from elsewhere to improve us? But I think Lowry is. It's funny, like you said it there. Like some people rate him very highly, and some people are just a bit meh about him. And
Yeah,
I'm kind of in that category. Like I don't see the amazing player that other people seem to see. Maybe it's just because I look more for things he doesn't do, or maybe that's on me. Maybe I need to just watch him a bit closer. But there were flashes against Motherwell of the Alex Lowry that I'd love to see every week at Hearts. His movement was good. He made good little passes, but then the other side of him, some of his decision making wasn't brilliant on occasions. He played the wrong pass sometimes, and I think I can't remember what game it was, but I remember Naismith subbed him off in a game a few weeks ago and was questioned. It might have even been Hibs actually, and was questioned about it after, and he said, he just doesn't make the right decision sometimes. That there's little moments where he could do the right thing, but he chooses something different, or he could play a risky pass and he chooses to go safe or whatever. And yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at with Alex Lowry. I'm not going to sit here to say he's a bad player, and I'm not going to sit here to say he doesn't offer anything. But I think one of the things as well that I'll speak about, obviously, it ties in with the goal that we scored.
Mm.
The set piece deliveries. It's funny, and I sent it to you as well. It was the Gattuso, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit clip that I was sent in relation to Alex Lowry, and particularly his set piece deliveries, because sometimes they're absolutely horrific, and he hits the
I
first
do
man from a corner.
100% agree with you.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you're looking for a level of consistency from a player. And if Alex Lowry can find consistency, then he walks into that Hearts team every week, like because he's got the technical quality, he's got good feet, he's got that ability, but he's still very raw for me. But
Mm.
that's exactly why he's at Hearts. Let's be clear, because if he was any more complete than what he is, he'd be playing for Rangers. Maybe not week in, week out, but he'd certainly be in and amongst it. In terms of January, I don't see Rangers recalling him, to be honest with you, because they've got the young lad whose first name escapes me, but it's that McCausland that
Oh yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
he,
I
he
know who you
died.
are.
He
Yeah,
he
it
took
died.
a tumble for a took a tumble for a
I.
penalty the other day there. Um, aye, that's a penalty to Rangers. What a surprise.
That's another
But
story
yeah,
for another day.
aye, he seems to be their like token Rangers youngster at the moment that they're playing. So I don't think Alex Lowry gets recalled in January, and I think if Philippe Clement has any long term thoughts for Alex Lowry, it's better he stays at Hearts at the moment and plays more, because obviously
Mhm.
he'll play more with us than he will at Rangers. I did see somebody post something up which I thought, I'm not going to say it warrants discussion, but it was an interesting one. And somebody said, if Rangers came in January and said, we'll give you 2.5 million plus Alex Lowry for Lawrence Shankland, do you take that? And
No, no,
I don't either. I don't
no.
either. And it's not because I don't rate Alex Lowry, it's because I rate Shankland
Yes,
far,
yeah,
far,
hundred
far too
percent,
high to
hundred
even
percent.
entertain any sort of business with
Mm.
them for him. But yeah, no, in short, and to kind of go back to what I was talking about, I I'm not a big fan of Alex Lowry, but I think it's more I feel about Alex Lowry that some people feel about Barry Mackay. Like there's
Yeah,
parallels there.
there's a lot of similarities, like sort of between the two players as well. Would you, do you agree with that?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I think it'll be very, very interesting when Barry comes back, whenever that may be. I think it's probably after Christmas at this point.
Mm.
When he comes back, it'll be interesting to see how the team gets set up. Because Naismith has openly praised Alex Lowry, and he seems to really like Alex Lowry. And it'll be very, very interesting to see how the team gets set up. Because for me, and again, this kind of feeds into what I'm talking about. For me, Barry Mackay walks back into that Hearts team if we go to the 4-2-3-1 and play him
Yeah,
out in the wing again.
yeah.
If we stick with this back three, which we played against Motherwell and we've played in recent weeks, I'm not sure where Barry Mackay fits into that. Whereas Alex Lowry plays in that number 10 role, whereas I
Mm.
don't know if Barry Mackay is quite capable of that. But
Yeah.
it'll be very, very interesting. As I say, I people know me. I'm a fan of Barry Mackay, and there are people that are big fans of Alex Lowry. I don't see the hype personally, but I will openly stand and applaud and admit when I'm wrong when he plays well, and he played well against Motherwell. So I'll give him that.
Fair enough, Alan. Fair enough. And just to kind of wrap that subject off, it gets to the end of the season, and we have the opportunity to buy Alex Lowry. If he's not too much, like if he's in our budget at a reasonable, at a reasonable price, you could maybe say that he could be a backup for Barry Mackay. Would you take him?
Oh, definitely, definitely. If there's a deal to do, I would. I think Lowry's enjoying being at Hearts. He's enjoying getting minutes. So it would be interesting to see if he would be keen to do that.
Hmm.
But yeah, if there was an opportunity that didn't involve us sending our top goal scorer along the MA in exchange, I would happily have Alex Lowry at Heart.
Absolutely. So, well, it's a something that we can pop up on the was on the Twitter page, but because Lord knows we'll have a good poll. So to go to the other end of the spectrum, not long after the goal, Alan, obviously, arguably one of the talking points of the match, which I'm going to try and be as what's the word? I'm going to try and be as level headed as I possibly can be because obviously when decisions don't go our way, obviously we're are going to be like ranting about like whoever it was to actual blame, ranting, but just trying to think it pragmatically as possible. So obviously we're referring to the first penalty shout, which involved Liam Boyce. Um, his name escapes me. The big like gauntlet looking fucker. Kelly was that his name? Or
What the defender, or
yeah, yeah.
I think it was Casey. I think
Casey,
he was
sorry,
the one.
yeah.
I
Was
think it
it
was Casey. I
well, I was like, like I think I was in was thinking about the old Spurs the goal was a keeper was Casey Kelly, like or the Kelly Casey. I don't know, but anyhow,
one of
um,
those.
hi, but from the angle and from what we first saw in the real time is that he lifts his leg when Boyce took it down onto his left shoulder. And the high foot, which looks like it presses right into his chest, and then Boyce goes down, holding his face. Like that's not like sort of like lie about that. Like he had got hit in the chest, and he went down holding his face. The referee then said it was a free kick the other way, which let's just start like from there, Alan. So obviously we talked about it before we came on. There's the Sky Sports the referees watch. I think it's Dermot the Gallagher, like I think his name is.
Mhm.
And they were showing a few penalties as well, like from Scotland as well. And after showing the clip to him, he said he found it incredible to believe that the referee had to go to the screen to actually look at it. Furthermore, to then look at the screen and then not give the penalty for the challenge and the question. Now, there was one certain angle where like his leg and his studs were so high, but there was a certain angle where it almost like not just like touched it, but just like softly touched his chest. Nonetheless, as well, there was an incident further on in the actual match where Shankland raised his foot, and then it was given as a foul, was and the free kick to Motherwell as well. So just from all that, Alan, what was your thoughts on the whole incident itself?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh,
to
right,
to
okay,
sum it up,
move on. Yeah, go on.
to sum it up, like you said, I think it's laughable. To be honest, and I think what makes it worse is that the referee is looking right at it. Like he's not. There's nobody in his way. There's nobody else in his line of sight. Like you see him, he's got the perfect view. And yeah, Boyce goes down holding his face. Maybe shouldn't have done that. Maybe that's why it went against him. But yeah, it's the whole thing of what is contact in the box, like what warrants enough contact for it to be a penalty. Because like you, the initial angle that I saw, I thought that's a stonewall penalty every day of the week. It has to be. He's literally kicked him in the chest. Like, how is that not a penalty? Then you see it from a slightly different angle, and there's not as much contact as I thought there was initially,
Hmm.
but there's still enough for Boyce to go down. Like he's not thrown himself to the floor. He's genuinely been taken out. But it's yeah, like I said, VAR then goes in the referee's ear and says, "Hang on a minute, we think you've made a mistake. We have evidence that you might want to see because we think you've made a mistake." And it's there's an element of it, like for me, that whenever in any league, like you see it, whenever the referee gets sent to the monitor, there's almost an inevitability that he's going to change his mind, he's going to give a penalty, or he's
Mm.
going to change his mind and say, no, it's not a penalty, depending on which way he goes.
Mm.
He goes across to the monitor and he watches it back and he still thinks it's not a penalty. Like, that just blows my mind. Like, we've moaned about VAR for a long time and we've criticized VAR a lot because I don't think there's any need for VAR, to be quite honest with you. But
So have you
in
then
that,
changed your mind from that as well now? Like because of obviously they asked the question to like a lot of coaches throughout this week for the inconsistency of the VAR. So would you now like because I remember I think it was still the first season that we were doing this. Would you argue that your mind has changed from a going bit like sort of for all in the VAR to now not so much now?
it's not even that. I just think that the referee, I don't know why. I don't know why he chooses to stick with his original decision, having been presented with clear evidence that he made a clear and obvious error, which is what we've always heard about VAR. And the reason that it's there is to prevent clear and obvious errors. I'll lay the blame at the referee on that one because
Mm.
VAR, as much as we criticize it and as much as we moan about it, VAR did its job
Yeah.
on that occasion. VAR went, hang on a minute here, Monroe, we think you've made a mistake. Come and see this. So he goes and watches it and still thinks it's not a penalty. That's more on the judgment of the referee as opposed to VAR. But yeah, it's baffling. And like I say, when I watched it back the other night and I posted them up on Twitter, there's I think three instances, and you mentioned one of them was Shankland with a high foot. There's another one, I think it's Rolls and a Motherwell defender or a Motherwell forward rather, and they've both got high feet. They've both got high feet. They've both gone in for the ball. And I think the referee gives a free kick to Motherwell, and there's no contact there either. It's just two players going in with high feet. So, for the penalty, to go back to that,
Mm.
it's dangerous play. At the very least, it's dangerous play. But for him to just go, yeah, no, it's not a penalty. Just crack on. Like I find it totally bizarre. And I'm not going to sit here and champion VAR because I cannot stand VAR. I don't think it's made any improvements to Scottish football in general at all. It's made talking about football become talking about VAR, and I hate that. I absolutely hate that. I don't know about you, but like when you watch sports scene, match of the day, all these things, all they seem to talk about, or the thing they seem to take the longest to talk about, is VAR. And I hate that. I'm like, can we go back to talking about football, please, rather than technology? But again, on that instance with that penalty, VAR was correct. It was a penalty. Like, I don't care if he's touched him with one stud or not touched him at all. It's a penalty. Yes, Boyce goes down holding his face, and that's the one thing that I can say that's probably counted against him. But every single referee and every single media person, aside from a couple, have all said it should be given. Um, Somebody labelled Liam Boyce an absolute disgrace for going down the way that he did.
It was Pat
You
Nevin.
see,
I can
that was it.
I can
Aye,
say
that
it. Yeah.
wee weasel. Yeah, you see. The thing is though, and this is the last thing I'll say on it. You see people exaggerate falls all the time. We saw it in the Rangers game. We've seen it countless times in Scottish football, and even Hearts players have been guilty of it as well. Players exaggerate falls because they know that that's what they have to do to even possibly get a decision. Like simulation has
Sure.
become something that is almost encouraged. And it's like, no, just fucking play football, play properly. And the referee, honestly, and again, the referee was fucking horrendous all day. to be quite honest with you. But yeah, I'm not gonna champion VAR because I can't stand it. But on that occasion, it was right.
Well, thank you very much for that, mate. And if you would like to see the full exclusive interview with Mikel Arteta, please stick around because we have a lot more to discuss. Um,
Sorry, I've made my way into the light now. I realised I felt like I was sitting in a cupboard there for a minute. So I've made my way into the light.
you've been shown the way, sir. Not a problem. But yeah, Alan, nicely said. So nicely said. But um, as we got in to the second half as well. Like as we did at the start, I thought we were comfortable, but quite in control of the actual game as well. I thought in particular the center of the park as well was quite solid as well as the defense as well. I think we could probably both agree that since coming back in to the team, the Benny. I thought that was his best performance since coming back as well, which was a delight to see. Um, but just while we're on the subject, as well, because like again, like you and me were talking about it. I think it was yesterday, I think. Which brings kind of into the question. What's happening with the Cammy Devlin at this moment in time because he seemed to almost be falling out of favor. Like I guess if you want to say that, in the squad as well. Like he's not featured as a starter that much this season. He doesn't seem to obviously be playing as much. There's been a few interviews as well where his like sort of role in the squad has come into question under Naismith as well. So where do you think that's actually came from? Because I don't think he's been the bad in the games that he's featured. Do you think it's maybe just the difference of in terms of how Naismith wants to actually play and the more particular players he wants to have in the squad? As we said, we're talking about just there, if both Mackay and Lowry were both fit, who would you actually have in the squad? Obviously coming down to different formations and the ways that he wants to actually play. But what were your thoughts on that? Do you think he has actually fallen out of favor from Naismith?
Don't know if he's fallen out of favor. I think it's like there's been, I think the last two international squads or the international call ups for the Socceroos, the Australians, that he's not been in squads. And I think he's 25, maybe 24,
Yeah.
25 now. So he's probably looking at that and going, want to be consistently getting called up for my country and making as many appearances as I can. And if I'm not playing for Hearts, then that's not going to happen. So he's probably just maybe a bit pissed off that he's missed out on the latest squad. But yeah, I think it's interesting. He did an interview with Barry Anderson, the Evening News, and he basically said he was a bit miffed about it, but he wasn't gonna, or I think he was bemused or whatever the word was. But he wasn't going to go and hammer on Naismith's door and demand an explanation as to why he's not playing yet. I don't think we've got to that point. But I think you're right. I think it's a simple case that Naismith has looked at his midfield options and probably I think maybe I said it a few weeks ago about Peter Haring and sort of players like that
Mm.
being able to do one aspect of the midfield but not do so well at the other aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I.e., if you're playing because we're playing this 3-5-2 at the moment, but it's essentially a 3-4-1-2 if you want to get technical with things like that, which means you have two in midfield. And it looks as if Naismith wants his two midfielders to be kind of all round midfielders, like we saw Benny against Motherwell. He was ball recovery was brilliant. It was the same against Livingston a couple of weeks ago as well. His ball recovery has been really, really good and something that we've missed in his absence. But then also you see the assist he gets for Shankland's goal for the second goal that we haven't really spoken about. But that's what Naismith wants his midfielders to do. to be able to do both sides of the game and to do it reasonably well. I think Neuenhoff has shown that he can do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cammy, we all love Cammy. This is not a slight on Cammy Devlin at all because I absolutely love him. But we all know, and he knows himself, the strengths in his game are the aggressive defensive side. When asked to go forward and carry the ball forward and make the right decision passing wise, it's not really his game. And I'm not saying for 1 minute that means Devlin's not got a place in the team because he absolutely does.
Of course.
But I think it's just a simple case of Naismith saying, well, actually, maybe he's not been performing in training as well as Neuenhoff has. Benny being back is a huge plus as well. The only thing that's missing from Benny is the fitness, and that's because he's been out for so long. You can see that he's growing back into the Benny that we had before. It's still early in terms of his return to playing, but the game against Motherwell, he was absolutely fantastic. I thought he was, aside from Shanklin, probably the second best player on the pitch. It was Benny, and that's amazing to see. But what that then does is means if we're going to stick with this formation and only play two in midfield, there's only one other place, and Devlin needs to fight for it. Along with the likes of Denham, the likes of Neuenhoff, as I say, Peter Haring, although he's still in the group. I don't know how far down the pecking order he's fallen, but he will have done. Um, Andy Halliday, another one that's still there as well. So there are midfield options, and if Devlin just needs to fight for his place, then that's a good thing. Like as I say, I love Cammy, and I've got all the time in the world for him. And I think the biggest thing to talk about in that particular game against Motherwell was, and I had a conversation on Twitter with friend of the podcast, Daniel McIver, um, who essentially said, it's a big call leaving Devlin out of that midfield because if it backfires, people are going to point the finger at Naismith and go, why are you leaving out Devlin? What are you doing?
Mm.
But, we had a back and forward conversation. It kind of came to the point where it was like, well, the midfield that Naismith has picked has to show why they've been picked ahead of Devlin because, Devlin has his uses and he's a good player, but the midfielders that were picked in that game did very well, as you say. If it was glaringly obvious that Cammy Devlin was a huge miss against Motherwell, then that would probably add more fuel to the Stephen Naismith fire that fans seem to have at the moment. But I'm happy that the midfield that played well and sort of vindicated that decision, and it maybe made Devlin go, okay, maybe it's for the good of the team that I'm not playing at the moment. As frustrating as that is for him on a personal level,
Mm.
if the midfield is operating well, which they did, nobody in the stands is going to complain that Cammy Devlin doesn't start because, well, the two that played well.
Yeah, no, man, exactly. I mean, just to kind of highlight what you actually said there, like, I mean, it is essentially the good thing, for the fact that we've got quite a selection of like of midfielders like to actually choose from, who all that carried their own like sort of unique contributions to the squad. I think that's maybe like to counter like my own point as well. Like I think that's also like a frustrating thing as well, as you just said there. Like I don't think there's any midfielder or a central midfielder more specifically that is an all rounder.
Yeah.
We've only just started to see what Neuenhoff can do. Like he's slowly coming on, which is great. But obviously with a Benny, like obviously being that more kind of defensive minded like midfielder, Cammy being that like aggressive terrier we all know. Denim is like I'd say is more of a work in progress. I think he can uh, bring a lot to the team further down the line. Haring as well, technically, like I think he's spot on as well with his tackling, his passing as well, long balls, and the Holiday like it just was and the Holiday, but it is an interesting one. Like I mean, obviously, like when it comes to these sorts of things, where like if there is a player that's not happy, just down to the fact they're not playing as much. I think that is a good thing. Like because like obviously like it goes without saying, there's no place in that squad that is 100% the guaranteed. At some
Yeah,
point, at some time, it will change. Just to name a few, like going down the countless injuries we've had over the past year, going from from Ed Gordon, Boyce, Benny, with the constant injuries, what then like enables those players to actually step in. Like granted, we talked about last week, Vander Clark as well. For all as much as it would be amazing to see Ed Gordon back in the squad, it's not the guaranteed. So for that thing, and much as you said as well, Devlin has to fight for that place. It wasn't a case of the Benny just walking straight back in as well. His first game back, I think it was
yeah,
Rosenberg. I think you only played the first half, and then he got hooked. Was it hooked at half time? So I think it just comes down to biding his time. So
yeah.
but overall, I think it is a good problem to actually have. So, but what is not a good problem to actually have is inconsistency from referees. So we're going to go back to another penalty claim as well. So again, we'll try not to actually be the biased um, towards this. So obviously, a ball was played in to the box. There was an initial block from the boys. Personally, I didn't see a lot in that. Um, Throughout the entire time when the ball was flying in to the box, very early on, obviously it was only from one angle, but very early on, you saw the boy's hand up at his chest for that whole flight of that actual ball, and then it
Mhm.
fell down to Shankland, and then the penalty was not given for the initial block from Boyce. Now, again, we've all heard Ed Naismith said it. We've seen countless tweets as well of saying it, but I would just say it one more time. We had a go back to the Rangers game at Ibrox, where where the Rangers penalty was given, even though there was an initial block on Haring, but yet they still got they given the penalty, which again was highlighted in the post match from Naismith as well after the Motherwell game. So again, Alan, obviously we don't have to go into too much detail about it, but again, it just comes back to the inconsistency. I wouldn't say necessarily the inconsistency of VAR because, on this particular occasion, I don't even think VAR got called into the question, for this
Mhm.
penalty. But even then, it's a constant thing. But the inconsistency from the referees, the Scottish referees in particular. I mean, how much time is going to have to go on before this? I mean, it's already an issue that's been going on for years, let's just say. But how long is it before, clubs, managers in particular, as well, will start speaking up to actually coincide and say, look, this can't go on. Yeah, guaranteed there will be two clubs that won't interfere, but all
Yeah.
round, I mean, how long do you think it'll take before the questions have to be asked of the SFA to actually do something about this inconsistency?
We know what the SFA and the SPFL and all these guys are like, mate. They're
Mm.
dinosaurs that
Mm-hmm.
don't want to change anything. So I think you could have 10 of the 12 managers shouting from the rooftops asking for change, and nothing's going to change. Um, but yeah, like I said it earlier, and I had my rant about VAR and all things technology in football. We said it, you referenced it as well when we did the episode purely about VAR coming into
Mm.
Scottish football. And it was a case of, is it going to make a difference? Is it going to level that playing field? Is it going to make consistent errors be correctly given or correctly made, overturned, etc.? And it's created more harm and more issues than than there were initially. I remember pre VAR, you look at who the referee is on a match day and you go, ah, he's fucking murder. Oh God, we're gonna be up against it. This referee's a joke. Now it doesn't matter who the referee is.
No.
It genuinely doesn't matter because they're all as average as each other, and VAR is just being operated by other average referees. Um, but yeah, it's something needs to happen because, like you say, that the level of inconsistency and Naismith mentioned it. The inconsistencies is what's making it very, very difficult to take them seriously. And like I said before, you don't like if I'm a journalist in a press conference after a game, you can pretty much write your headlines already before
Yeah.
you've even spoken to the managers. You look at the two instances in the game, VAR was involved or poor penalty decisions, poor refereeing decisions, whatever. You can almost write about VAR before you've even written about the game, because you know it's going to be involved somewhere. Um, the second penalty claim, the Shanklin one, just to kind of put my thoughts on it. You mentioned it as well. The block from Boyce. I don't know what Boyce is meant to do there. He was standing still, didn't move with the Motherwell player. Like you said, had his hands up, wasn't initiating any sort of block. I think initially they thought Shanklin might have been offside, but he wasn't. It, it's baffling. It's another decision that just doesn't make a lot of sense when you factor it into other games. And I think that's what the referees and the SFA and the SPFL have to do. They have to look at games in context and say, well, look, last week, Peter Haring got blocked. Yes, Peter Haring pulled the shirt of a Rangers player. Yes, it was a penalty, but there was a block before that wasn't even looked at. They just looked at the penalty claim. I'm not saying VAR has to look at everything because fuck, the things it looks at now are ridiculous anyway. But the last thing I'd want to do is give VAR more to do in that instance. But the fact is, Boyce doesn't foul him at all. There's no foul there. The ball goes over his head. There's no foul there at all. Shankland is shaping up to shoot, and the Motherwell player goes sort of from behind him, but at the side. And I
Mm.
think, to be fair to the Motherwell player, I think he gets a touch on the ball. But the fact is, he goes through Shankland to get that ball. And to me, that's a penalty, and I said it on Twitter and I've said it on here countless times. We have seen penalties given for so much worse or so much less than that.
Yeah.
And again, it goes down to consistency. As I say, referees can all see things from different points of view. They will all have different interpretations of what's a foul and what's not a foul. That's fine. But that's why VAR's there. It's meant to bring consistency, and it's not. And it's a whole thing. And I could sit here and rant for hours about VAR because I just think it is an absolute disaster, and it needs to be binned. Like, Craig Levine said after St Johnstone game just at the weekend there, he was saying, oh, it's a new system, there's bumps in the road, we need to give it time. And I'm thinking,
Oh,
Levine, mate,
where have
like,
I heard that before?
exactly, exactly. It was like he was on repeat. And listen, I love Craig Levine, as I said last week, but you get to that point where people need to start calling it out and saying, right, like you say, something needs to happen here because every week Stephen Naismith is the one that's coming out saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this inconsistency, this is wrong. And there will come a point where people go, Stevie, shut up about VAR. Stop talking about VAR. Just, stop talking about referees. Talk about your own team. And I get that as well. But when you've been wronged, you have to call it out. You have
Yeah,
to say, where's the consistency? Because, like I said about the high foot in the first half, there were instances of high feet all day, and they all got free kicks. The one that was in the box doesn't get a penalty.
yeah,
The Shankland foul for that, the second penalty claim, to me, is it as much of a stonewall as the first one? Maybe not, but there's still grounds for a penalty there, and it should have been given. Like it's yeah,
yeah.
I despair at the state of Scottish football and the fact that technology seems to have just taken over and just turned it to absolute predictable shit.
Absolutely right, Alan. I mean, like again as well. Like I mean, like when it comes down to it, yes, it was was it like a penalty at the other end of the pitch when Motherwell got theirs. But the point I want to actually make about that, it was an instant decision from the referee, and
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of put into context as well, when the ball was hit from the shot, Cochrane was about what 5 yards away, and it's at such a
Yeah.
speed where what is he meant to do? Like, what is he physically in that short space of time meant to actually do? Because if I remember correctly, he was only just facing the actual ball when the ball was struck. So again,
Mm-hmm.
like literally, as soon as it strikes his hand, like literally straight away, the referee was like, "Yeah, the penalty," and yet
Yeah.
he didn't have a thought to actually think, right? Oh, like sorry, VAR didn't have a thought to actually think, right? Was that a clear and obvious penalty? Was his hand in an unnatural position? Like all of these things, like all they come back to inconsistency, where no game is the same. No referee goes by this like a sort of standard in terms of
Mm-hmm.
what like is to be like expected. It's almost like a free roam as such for
Yeah.
every game that the referee has. But I digress. Like we still they came away with the 3 points. I mean, just one last point I would like to actually make before we wrap things up, and something that we've been talking about for so long: the easy things, doing the simple things good, and obviously when Motherwell scored their penalty. Obviously, the last 15 minutes were a tiny bit nervy, but throughout the last 5 minutes of normal time and the 5 minutes extra time as well, it was so nice of us to see Hearts doing simple things like whenever the ball gets in to the box, fucking hoof it out. Don't try and pass your way out of it, the danger to cause yourself more problems. Well, we got the corner, we kept it there. Like, you had Forrest and Shanklin having the time of their lives in that corner and frustrating the
Mm-hmm.
hell out of the Motherwell defense to try and get that ball back. That's what I want to see. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to constantly see this technical, like, passing, zinging, bibbidi dabbidi boo. Like, like you want to see the
Yeah.
simple things done well. And generally,
Yeah.
that was one of the highlights of that match. Like, I don't know who actually put it up, but there there was a clip I came across where it was like from the 93rd minute, and from
Mm-hmm.
there till the end of the game, it was sped up and it was just kept
Mm-hmm.
constantly in that a corner. And it was so nice to actually see, to protect what you've actually got. Don't take any like sort of unnecessary chances. Like, it was just nice to see
Yeah.
because we've been the calling it out for ages, Alan.
Yeah. 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 It was brilliant. It's
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. It's funny, like Toby Sibbick was brought on at in the second half, because
Who
Motherwell had a bit of a
actually
threat.
thought played quite well as well, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Motherwell made a change at halftime, brought on an actual fullback or a wing back rather, and they started targeting Forrest on that right hand side. And Naismith recognised that, took Forrest off, and brought Sibbick on. And again, I'll applaud Naismith for a substitution that worked. But that last 5 minutes, it started because Toby Sibbick was he was running into the Motherwell half with a ball. And I think he interchanges passes. I think it was with Kingsley, maybe. I could be wrong.
Mm.
And Sibbick's like, he's through. And you're sort of thinking, right, Toby Sibbick, what are you going to do here? Because he has been guilty of overplaying. Obviously, he was in the Motherwell half, so it didn't really make much of a difference.
Mm.
But I'm thinking he's going to have a shot at the goalkeeper here. He's going to try and do what he did against Hibs and have a shot at the keeper. But he doesn't. He turns and goes towards the corner flag. And as soon as I saw him do that, I was like, that's it. Game's done. Game's done. And then it was amazing because it was Sibbick, Shankland, and George Grant that were the three. It wasn't Forrest, it was George Grant at that point. And the three of them in the corner it was anti-football at its finest. And
Brilliant.
like you said, it's the simple things. It's the simple things. And as long-term listeners know, I'm not a huge fan of Motherwell or their wonderful supporter base, but that last 5 minutes of play, you could not wipe the smile off my face, honestly. Just watching the three players, it was like no other Hearts players were on the pitch at that point.
Yeah.
Nobody else touched the ball for like the last 5 minutes. No other Hearts players touched the ball. It was Shankland, Grant, and Sibbick, and then it just ended up being Shankland and Grant for the last 2 minutes. Just really, really enjoyable. And I think my favourite moment of that exchange was, again, it was that Casey that should have given away a penalty. He went over and was whinging and complaining about the fact that we were just clearly wasting time. And then Shankland just decides to absolutely smash the ball off his face out for a throw in. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. But yeah, no, it is. It was good game management from Naismith and the subs that he made, but also good in-game management from the players on the pitch. And that shows a level of intelligence, that shows a level of understanding, right? This is 2-1. Motherwell had their moments, but I never really, as nervous as I was never really thinking, this could be 2-2. We might throw this away. I didn't feel like that. Okay, I didn't watch it live, so I knew we hadn't thrown it away. But at the same time, I was thinking, right, Motherwell are going to have a chance towards the end of the game. And they didn't really. They didn't, because we just controlled it so well. But yeah, I have that 3 minute clip of added time saved on my phone. And see, whenever, I'm feeling a bit shitty right now because I'm off, fucking throat's killing me, as I'm sure you'll hear. And thank God for the mute button, because I've had about 6 coughing fits during this. But whenever I'm feeling like shit, I'm just whipping that clip out and watching it again, because it's just so nice. It is so nice to see us manage a game to the end properly.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna. I don't want us to play like that for 90 minutes, but 5 minutes at the end, yes, please.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely, and it was a nice 3 points to take back as well. As of such, I don't know how we are, but we're sitting joint fourth with Dundee, with 17 points as we head into the international break. But our next game is on the 25th of November, where we welcome St Johnstone at home and welcome back Craig Gordon. That reception can go either way, but it should hopefully be a good game as well. And we will bring you a podcast as well around that time. We still haven't decided what we're going to do next week, but we will keep you updated with that. And I think that brings us to the end of this podcast for this week. And as always, guys, we do hope you have enjoyed it as always. And we would like to take this opportunity to say our next milestone will be 400. So get subscribing, guys, please. But yeah, as always, thank you very much for watching. And as I've just said there, if you haven't subscribed, please think about subscribing. And if you want to get in contact with us via our socials as well, please feel free to do so. So as we head off and as Alan head back to his bed, we do hope you have a good week, and we will see you in the next one. You all take care now. Bye for now.